You're watching part 3 of Making Music Magic on a Shoestring Budget, where we're discussing do-it-yourself activities for music expression. So the first activity that I want to talk about for musical expression is really just creative movement. This can be done in many different ways, but it's just a way to kind of gauge to gauge students' response to the music that they're listening to. If the music is fast, are the students moving fast? If the music is smooth, are the students moving smoothly? Excuse me. You don't even have to have the students holding any items or doing anything. This could simply just be the students and the music, and that's one, free, and two, very cost friendly at that point. You could also do this, as you'll see in some of my videos that I'm about to show you. I got funds one year to get scarves, a classroom set of scarves. I think I got maybe around 40 or 50, kind of larger than my largest classroom set, so that everybody had scarves to use for each class. But also too, sometimes things happen, scarves are lost or they are ripped, and I had extras after that. You can find these in many different kind of school stores online, or you can simply make them yourself if that's something that you wanted to out of your own piece of fabrics that you wanted to buy. Again, a very cheap way, kind of a one purchase buy that could be extended a lot of many options past that. I used a lot of scarves too when I did folk dancing, because kids didn't like to hold each other's hands, so instead they held scarves, and it was just another effective way to use the scarves instead of just using it for creative movement. But here's some examples of students listening to music, and as I'm watching them move with the scarves, I'm assessing different things. Are they, like I was saying, are they moving as they should be moving to the music based on what they're hearing? If the music, sounds smooth, are they moving smoothly with their scarf? Really the scarf really just becomes an extension of the body. And so they're kind of using that as the mode in which I'm assessing them. Just a quick formative, informal observation of kind of, are they understanding the music that they're hearing, and how are they able to take that and put it into their bodies. So here's two examples that I hope you enjoy. So the next activity for musical expression, I just call Draw What You Hear. You can call it whatever you want if you choose to do it in your classroom, but basically it's just a listening activity. And I got the inspiration for this activity from my art teacher at the time, who was doing a project on the artist Kandinsky. And when he was creating his pieces of art, he actually listened to music, and that affected how he created his art. And so I thought that would be a really cool way to kind of, I guess, semi-formally assess what my students were internalizing from what they were hearing and kind of how they responded on a piece of paper, as opposed to using their bodies like the previous slide. And so basically I would give my students a couple of sheets of paper, one sheet of paper per piece of music that we were listening to. I gave them their, coloring materials that I either had myself or that I borrowed from either the art teacher. Hey, can I borrow a class set of crayons or whatever, or I got from the school supply store, or the school supply closet, I should say, or I purchased them on your own. There's multiple ways you could get those kind of coloring materials. But then I just asked the students, I want you to draw what you're hearing, and we talked about how what you draw should match what you're listening to. So if the music sounds smooth, you should draw smooth lines. If the music sounds short or like almost like a robot, how are you going to draw that on a piece of paper? And we talked about how you don't necessarily, like Kandinsky, you don't have to necessarily draw an image, just kind of draw lines and draw shapes and things like that. So it was just really cool to see what students would produce from this activity. So one of the pieces I would play would be Flight of the Bumblebee. And obviously, as you can probably kind of imagine, the students were quickly drawing on their pieces of paper, as opposed to when I would play on the next sheet of paper. For instance, I may play, I don't know, The Swan from Camille Saint-Saëns' Carnival of the Animals, in contrast. Very slow, very smooth, very romantic sounding, and the polar opposite would happen. They weren't fervorously drawing because of Flight of the Bumblebee. They were doing smooth lines and shapes and things like that. So it was just really great to again see them internalize what they were hearing, and doing it through kind of this like art project and kind of inspired by what Kandinsky did when he was listening to it. Another way you could do this as well is to create a listening map. I have another colleague who teaches in the state of Georgia, and she does a listing map activity with her students, and you can see on the bottom picture there, they did Molly on the Shore by Percy Granger, and kind of the student, it was a whole project where they had this student in particular printed out pictures of the instruments that they were hearing or the event that they were hearing, and then kind of divided that into the different sections of the piece. Some other students in this project that I saw, they actually were drawing what they were hearing as opposed to printing out the pictures and things like that. So again, modifying it to meet the needs of your students, meet the needs of your situation, and the materials that you already have in your classroom. So I hope you enjoyed that. So one of my favorite activities for musical expression, or just music in general, is using music to enhance literature. Now there are tons of different ways you can do this, and there is so much children's literature out there that you could use in your classroom. Now again, could be a very free option, or if you really want to have the book in your personal classroom library, you can purchase the book as well. However, you can go to your school library. A lot of the books that I incorporated into my lessons were from my school library. I didn't have to purchase it at all. I just, got the book for a certain amount of time and taught with that book, and then just, sent it back to the library. I have also, if my school did not have the book that I was looking for, I went to my school library. I know that sounds kind of archaic at this point, but that they're still there. We had a local school. We had a local library that was very close to our school. I went there, found the book I needed, and rented it for the or had it for the amount of time that I needed it, and then just brought it back to the library. Again, like I was saying, you could also purchase the book if you want to, so you have it for multiple years later. It just depends again on the funds, the budget that you have, and if you're willing to purchase it yourself. But there are ways to do it for free is what I was trying to get to the point. But like I was saying, there are so many ways that you can enhance literature through music. And some of the best books to do this are ones that are very repetitive, that are applicable to students, engaging to students' experiences, some that are just like funny to listen to. I know I did a book about Loud and Soft, where a family was loud and they had really soft neighbors and things like that. So we had that we enhanced that book through music, because we got to talk about dynamics. I've done books where we have created rhythmic ostinatos because the book was so repetitive, and we created a rhythmic ostinato based on that repetitive nature. And so every time we heard that text or the repetition, we would play that rhythm. I've also done a children's book where you could basically keep a steady beat through the whole book. And I read it through almost like I was rapping the book, which was kind of cool. And then another way I've also used children's literature is actually to create soundscapes. So I read the students a book that was very underwater, aquatic themed, and we ended up creating a soundscape with that. And so basically what that looked like was I kind of let them listen to Camille Saint-Saëns' The Aquarium from the Carnival of the Animals, and we got to talk about things like timbre. Why did Camille Saint-Saëns choose this kind of sound to represent the things he was thinking about or imagining that the underwater sounded like? And then we got to kind of mimic what that was in our classroom using instruments, and we created our own underwater soundscape. And I projected the free Georgia Aquarium webcam, and they have like a live stream of what is happening in the aquarium at the time that we were creating it. So it was this really cool activity where the kids loved it. It's very, very calming, very soothing, to be honest, because I did it in pentatonic, and so it all kind of just worked because there wasn't any like dissonance or accidentals or anything like that. And so anyways, you're going to see some examples of that. I have 3 different examples, so many ways to enhance literature through music, and so many different books you can choose from. And it just kind of, again, is up to you, your situation, and the books that are available to you at the time. So I hope you enjoy these 3 videos.
And 1, 2, bass, xylophones, go. And altos, go. Glockenspiels, go. Bongos, go. And singers, go. And stop here. Window and looked out into her garden, and what do you think she saw? 2 shoes, go. 1 pair of pants, go. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. 1 shirt, go. Shake, 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 shake. 2 gloves, go. Pop, 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 pop. 1 hat, go. Nod, 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 nod. 1 scary puppy head, go. Boo, boo, and everybody sing.
I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of anything.
Louder.
I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of anything.
Stop. Very good.
So the next activity for musical expression I called Finding Music at Home. I the video that you're about to see is an example from a colleague of mine who teaches in Georgia. And even during this kind of digital learning time, she was able to provide this, again, free activity for her students, but do it in a way that kind of connected home and school. And so when I saw this, I asked for permission if I could use this quick little video she made for her students, because I thought it was so great that music is not just in our classroom. Music happens outside of our school. And so what does music sound like at home? So a great way to connect things like fast and slow, what things are fast at your home, what things are slow at your home, what things are loud, what things are quiet. And so it's just kind of gets kids listening to sounds at home. And so I hope you enjoy this video. Again, a free way to connect with your kids. I think she did this on, her school district's, online learning platform. And so the students just submitted their videos to her. It's like, oh, at my house, this is blank, and things like that. So I hope you enjoy this video, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Fun. Speaking of fun, Mr. Denny and I wanted to have a little fun too with some of our expression terms. So we have loud and we have soft. And so we're going to show you some loud and soft sounds that happen all around. In fact, right now you're going to hear soft. I'm curious to see what you guys have that is loud and soft around your house or your neighborhood. Maybe it's something that you can make with your own voice, an instrument, or maybe it's something you can make with a found sound. So excited to see your faces and hear your voices. Share those videos. All right, guys, see you soon.
So the last activity for musical expression may not be an actual activity, but I just wanted to make you think about some cross-curricular connections to musical expression that you could be using. I know earlier we talked about, connecting music and art through that Draw What You Hear activity. Well, in my classroom, I was grateful to have some bulletin boards available to me. And so I really thought about, anchor charts in a normal classroom and what I would like to see on the anchor charts, and to make some cross-curricular connections in those anchor charts through musical expression. So as you can see on the screen here, I have two examples of some bulletin boards that I made that I referenced to when we were talking about musical expression. The first one on the left is talking about articulation and the difference between, staccato and legato, but then making a connection to, art and how, things like pointillism and other artists who use very, short or very pointed brush strokes and things like that, or created art in a very staccato-like manner. And then how that looks different from legato, which is very smooth and connected, and artists who use broad brush strokes and very smooth brush strokes, or things that were connected. And so it was a great way to talk about that with my students when we actually started talking about musical expression in my classroom, and I always referenced that. Same thing went for the second picture on the right, talking about tempo. So we kind of had another PE connection there, where we talked about how tempo is the speed of the beat. Well, we also have a heartbeat, and the faster we move our bodies, the faster our heartbeat goes. And so I kind of connected the silly hearts. I just did 6 different tempo terms in Italian, and then actually approximated their, actually beats per minute, and kind of made that connection. And so, made the connection that beat is the heartbeat of music. And all of this I created myself. So, I'm sure that there are tons of different things you could go out there and purchase, but I was like, you know what, I have some construction paper, I can make this and laminate it, and then I have it for forever, however long I need it. So there's just 2 examples of how we could do it. Obviously, for the articulation one, I just printed out copies of those pictures, and then actually on the bottom, I don't know if you can see, I actually provided the name of the artist underneath it to give them, obviously, the credit for that. But just some different ways in which you can actually provide students with those cross-curricular connections. You can even do this with things like pitch and rhythm and talking about value and talking about, frequency and things like that. So there's many ways that you could actually make bulletin boards or anchor charts for your students and make those cross-curricular connections in your classroom. And, most of the stuff was free. I either printed it offline or I created it with materials I already had in my classroom, which was pretty great.